Before I tell you what she found, I need to tell you what she was. She wasn't a character in someone else's love story. She wasn't a plot twist. She wasn't background noise. Her name was Grace, 31 years old. And for 6 years, she woke up before the sun did. Cooked, cleaned, raised children that were not hers. She was invisible in that house. Just the house help. That was the agreement. Stay invisible. Do the work. Collect your pay. Go home. But on a Tuesday in November, invisibility became the most dangerous thing in that house. The house belonged to Richard and Sandra Adeyemi. Richard was 44, an investment consultant who flew business class and smiled like he'd rehearsed it. A man who always had an answer. Always. Sandra was 41, a pediatric nurse. Long shifts, tired eyes. A woman who trusted too much because she had never been given a reason not to. They had 2 kids. Liam, 7. Amara, 4. Grace took care of all of them. She picked Liam up from school every afternoon. She braided Amara's hair every Sunday morning. She knew Amara was allergic to mango. Sandra sometimes forgot. She knew Liam slept with the light on because he was scared of the dark. Richard never asked. Grace knew that house the way only invisible people do. Every corner, every routine, every quiet. She knew its secrets. She just didn't know she was about to find the biggest one. It was a Thursday. Richard had left for a work trip the night before. Sandra was on a double shift at the hospital. The kids were at school. Grace was doing what she always did. Laundry. His gray suit. The one he'd worn to dinner 2 weeks before. She checked the pockets, like she always did. A pen cap. Some coins. A receipt. She almost threw it away. She almost did. But the name of the hotel caught her eye. The Meridian Grand. She knew of it. Everyone did. It wasn't a conference hotel. It wasn't a business stay. It was the kind of place you took someone. 2 nights. Suite 14B. November 8th and 9th. Grace stood very still. November 8th. She remembered that date. Because that was the weekend Richard told Sandra he was in Dubai. She had heard them discuss it over dinner. She had helped Sandra pack his suitcase. The Meridian Grand was 40 minutes from their front door. She turned the receipt over. And there, in small printed letters, the name on the room booking. Not Richard Adeyemi. Chloe Martins. Grace stood in that laundry room for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. She would later count it back, because time does strange things when the world shifts underneath you. She told herself it meant nothing. A business associate. A colleague booking on his card. A clerical error. But Grace had spent 6 years being invisible in that house. And invisible people notice everything. She had noticed the car. A silver Lexus RX, parked outside the house 3 months before. Sandra had asked about it. Richard said it was a company vehicle, a benefit for a new deal. Sandra believed him. Why wouldn't she? Grace had believed him too. Until now. She put the receipt in her pocket. She finished the laundry. She made dinner. She bathed Amara. She read Liam a story. She turned on his light. She did all of it with a receipt burning in her pocket and a question burning in her chest. What do you do when you know something that could destroy everything? That night, she lay in her small room at the back of the house, and she made a list. Option 1. Say nothing. Keep her job. Keep the peace. Let whatever was happening happen. It wasn't her marriage. It wasn't her life. It wasn't her place. Option 2. Tell Sandra. Hand her the receipt. Let the truth do what truth does. And accept that everything, her job, her income, her security, might collapse in a single moment. She thought about it all night. She thought about Sandra's tired eyes and her double shifts and the way she kissed Richard every morning like she meant it. She thought about Liam. She thought about Amara. She thought about what it means to be a woman who works this hard and is still lied to. By 4 a.m., Grace had her answer. Sandra came downstairs at 7:15, still in scrubs from her night shift. Exhausted, beautiful in the way only real women are, lived in and completely unaware of it. She poured herself a coffee. She looked at Grace and said, "You're up early again. What would we do without you?" Grace thought, "More than you know." She waited until the children had been dropped at school. She waited until Sandra had showered and changed. She waited until the house was quiet and the morning felt like morning. Then she walked into the living room and she placed the receipt on the coffee table in front of Sandra. She said nothing. She didn't need to. Sandra looked at it. Sandra picked it up. Sandra read it. And Grace watched the moment a woman's life reorganizes itself around a truth she wasn't ready for. "Where did you find this?" Sandra asked. "His suit pocket. I was doing the laundry. Did you know?" I knew something. I didn't know what. I know now. Sandra didn't cry. Not then. She just sat there, holding that small piece of paper, the whole weight of it in her hands. Grace sat across from her. She didn't leave. She didn't look away. Richard came home 2 days later. Sandra had spent those 2 days doing what strong women do. She called her sister. She spoke to a lawyer. She cried exactly once, at 2 a.m. on the kitchen floor, and then she stood back up. Grace had been there for all of it. She made tea. She kept the children distracted. She asked nothing and gave everything. When Richard walked through that door, fresh from wherever he had actually been, he found his wife at the dining table. And on the table between them, one hotel receipt. He denied it first. Of course he did. Then he minimized it. A mistake. It was complicated. It didn't mean anything. Sandra said 3 words. Get out. Now. He left. He came back twice with excuses and flowers and promises. Sandra didn't open the door. 3 months later, she filed for divorce. She got the house. She got primary custody. She got her life back. And Grace got something she hadn't expected. She got seen. Sandra sat her down one evening after the kids were in bed and said, "You didn't have to tell me. You risked your job, your income, everything. For me. You would have done the same," Grace said. "I hope so," said Sandra. "I'd like to think I would." Grace kept her job. Sandra gave her a raise. Not as payment, as respect. But that's not the point of this story. The point is this. Every day, people move through the world in the background of other people's lives. They see things. They know things. They carry things that were never meant for them to carry. And at some point, they have to choose. Protect themselves or do what's right. Stay safe or speak the truth. Grace chose the truth. And yes, it could have cost her everything. It does cost people everything, sometimes. That's what makes it brave. But here's the thing about doing the right thing. You don't do it because it's safe. You do it because somewhere deep in your chest, you know you couldn't live with yourself if you didn't. Grace knew. So she walked into that living room. She placed a receipt on a table. And she changed every single life in that house, including her own. Now I want to hear from you. Because what Grace did was not easy. A lot of people would have looked at that receipt and put it back. Told themselves it wasn't their business. Told themselves the risk was too high. And honestly, that's human. That's real. There's no judgment in that. But I need you to settle this in the comments right now. Drop stay if you would have kept quiet. Drop speak if you would have told Sandra. No wrong answers. Just honest ones. And if this story hit different, if you've ever been the Grace in someone's house, the one who sees everything and says nothing, share this video right now. No caption needed. Just send it. Let it find the person who needs to see it. Because maybe someone is standing in a laundry room right now, holding a receipt, and they just need to know that choosing the truth, even when it terrifies you, is always the right call. Follow for part 2. We find out what happened to Chloe Martins. And trust me, that story is even more complicated.